Welcome to the Membership Guys podcast. Kick-ass advice and tips for membership site owners.
Well, hello there. Welcome to episode 217 of the Membership Guys podcast. I'm your host, Mike Morrison. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and for taking the time to download today's episode. If you just found the show, welcome. You have found the number one place for proven practical tips and advice for anyone thinking about or currently running a membership business. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button in your podcast app, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever it is you listen to podcasts on. That's going to make sure you do not miss a single episode, because trust me, you will not want to miss a single episode of the show. If you're a long-term listener, you know that already. You know I love and appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your continued support for the podcast. Today, we're kicking off a little trip into the archives. Every now and then we like to go back into the vault and pick out 3 great previous episodes of the Membership Guys podcast. Now, sometimes these are episodes that are just my personal favorite. Sometimes these are episodes that are just really timely. And sometimes they're episodes that are just about real important, real key fundamental principles that I want to bring back up to you guys. Because, you know, I know one or two of you, we get some feedback from people where they say, hey, I've just found the show and I binge watched all 216 episodes. Now, if you did that, then you're awesome, but you're also a little crazy. Let's say it. It's, I think that's fair. 200 plus episodes of me banging on about memberships. It's all good stuff on this show, but I mean, 200 plus episodes is a lot to binge listen to, right? So I don't expect most of you will have listened back that far in the show. And because the nature of this podcast means that each and every episode is kind of timeless, right? It's evergreen stuff. I'm not reporting on news here or something that is going to be out of date in 6 months' time. But because of that, that means that there could be an episode 2 years ago that covers the most important thing to your business right now, but maybe you won't come across that episode because it was out so long ago. So I do like to pull some episodes from the vault just to give you guys a chance to refresh your memory or to learn some new stuff that you might have missed first time around. So for the next 3 weeks, we are going back into the archives. I've got 3 great episodes lined up for you. And we're kicking things off with episode 66. This episode is all about the key differences between B2C memberships and B2B memberships. So B2C is business to consumer. So it's where you're running a membership that is selling just to average people. So average customers, something with their personal life, hobbies, interests, and stuff like that. B2B is business to business. So where the topic of your membership is more skewed towards helping someone's business out. Maybe you're teaching them how to market or make more money or generate sales. Or maybe you're teaching, how to run a very specific type of business like we do with Membership Academy. It's a membership business that teaches people how to run a membership business to B2B membership. Now, even though most of what we cover here on the Membership Guys and inside Membership Academy, the principles, strategies, and the tactics, they apply across the board, whether you're B2C, whether you're B2B, regardless of what niche or what market your membership's in. However, when it comes to B2B and B2C memberships, there are some key differences that you need to be aware of as relates to how you might want to position, market, how you get your messaging in place, how you price your offering, the risk profile of your potential customers, all that sort of stuff. So, back in episode 66, I dug deep into 4 key differences between B2C and B2B membership sites. We talked about how those 2 distinct types of members tend to perceive things differently when it comes to value, cost, prioritizing your membership. I looked at how your customer profile will impact things like planning out your membership content strategy, as well as talking about ballpark price ranges that are going to be acceptable to B2B and to B2C memberships and how they differ, and the one factor with B2C memberships that might actually enable you to charge a little bit more. So it's a really good, really useful episode. This is going to be useful to you whether you're just planning your membership or whether you've got one up and running, just to help you better understand the differences between those key types of memberships and, use that to be able to filter some of the advice that you hear or maybe some of the plans that you have in place. So without further ado, we're going to jump right back into the vault with episode 66, 4 key differences between B2C and B2B memberships. Many of the principles, many of the strategies we talk about when it comes to membership websites apply whatever niche or whatever market you're in. But there are some key differences between a B2B membership and a B2C membership that's going to affect your approach, your strategy, mindset, marketing, and a whole bunch of other things. The first of those is that when it comes to business to consumer memberships, you often find that the problems and the solutions that people are dealing with vary to a greater degree than with business to business. So with B2C memberships, at one end of the scale you have your hobbyist where they join the membership purely to get better at their hobby or to indulge in a hobby that really at the end of the day doesn't make a big difference to their lives. It's just something they do because they have an interest in it. It's not life or death. It's not something that if they were no longer able to do it, they would fall apart. So at one end of the scale, you have something that is fairly unimportant in the grand scheme of things. But at the other end of the scale with B2C memberships, you can have stuff that can be truly life-changing in terms of the subject, in terms of the problems that your audience have. So, people who have chronic weight problems who join a membership to lose weight, people who have crippling confidence issues, maybe people in massive debt, or people who want to quit smoking, those sorts of things are going to be so much more impactful, so much more life-changing than what you'll typically find with a B2B membership in terms of what that covers. So with B2B, usually it's more around skills. It's more around wanting to develop skills that are going to be used within a business. You typically have people joining expecting a return on an investment. Quite often they view their membership from a logical point of view rather than an emotional one, but the range of problems and the range of solutions that you can provide tends to be a lot narrower than with B2C memberships. Now, of course, there are going to be exceptions to the rule, but broadly speaking, the scale of how important your membership is and how much of an impact it can make is usually going to be far broader with a B2C membership. So it's perhaps more important with those types of memberships that you spend a good amount of time researching and assessing where your membership fits on the scale to make sure that you're approaching and you're marketing and you're positioning your membership accordingly. So that's the first big difference between B2C and B2B, just how vast the range is between a B2C membership being fairly inconsequential or being majorly life-changing. The second big difference when it comes to B2B and B2C memberships comes down to attitudes towards cost and affordability. Typically with a B2C membership, your members are going to look at their monthly subscription as a cost. They're going to assess it alongside their cell phone bill, alongside their grocery bills, alongside basically the cost of living. And so if things get a little bit tight, your membership becomes fairly expendable. Even if it is a sort of membership where you're helping them to get some sort of life-changing result, like losing weight, like developing confidence, like getting out of debt, ultimately, when push comes to shove, nobody is going to risk getting their mobile phone disconnected so that they can remain a part of your membership. When it comes to B2B memberships, your members will typically look at their subscription as an expense. They'll likely be paying for numerous other services. Maybe they're more likely to be part of several different memberships too. So it's a business expense, not a personal expense. And while obviously you don't want to take it for granted that that means that members will stick around or, they won't think twice about the fact they're paying you, you're probably going to have less issues with people leaving simply because they have to in order to be able to put food on the table that month. The issue you will have though with B2B memberships when it comes to their attitudes towards the cost is your membership and how much is put into it will typically be compared to other services or other memberships that your member is actually paying for and assessed in terms of the value they're getting and the return on investment. So it's even more important that you deliver a result and you give people a reason to continue paying month after month. Now, the actual level of affordability when it comes to memberships typically does vary between B2B and B2C memberships. A B2C membership will often be expected to be cheaper or more affordable than a B2B membership. While there is no one-size-fits-all approach to pricing and there's certainly not a set industry average, you'll often find in terms of monthly payments that a B2C membership will fall somewhere between $15 to maybe $35 or $40, whereas a B2B membership's usually around the $30 to $60 mark. Obviously, that's going to vary depending on particulars, but again, it's just an indicator that B2C will usually cost less, and there'll usually be an expectation that it won't cost anywhere near as much as a B2B membership, and that again comes back to how your members going to perceive the importance of your membership site as well as the value and the result they're going to get out of it. Now, one thing to take into consideration with B2C memberships is whether or not there's a financial barrier to entry when it comes to the particular subject your membership's based around. So if you run a membership that is aimed at photography enthusiasts, then your customer base are one where they're having to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars in support of their hobby in terms of buying equipment. So that applies to musicians where they have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on instruments. It applies to high-tech hobbyists, so perhaps people who are building really expensive, really high-end PCs or gadgets or something like that. Basically, whenever anyone is having to spend a lot of money just to get in the game, just to actually participate in that hobby, then that gives you a little bit more leeway in terms of what you can realistically charge, because they are accustomed to the fact that their hobby does have a financial element to it. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility, but again, B2C is usually going to be expected to be a bit cheaper than a B2B membership. The third big difference is how much time your members are going to have available to them. When you're working with B2B memberships, usually you're competing against work and home obligations. So your members are going to be utilizing your membership in their spare time. It's not something they can sit and do at work, whereas with a B2B membership, then actually taking some time and scheduling in time to use your site may actually be viewed as a viable business activity that they can set time aside for. When it's B2C, you have generally a much smaller amount of time available. So you need to account for this in terms of the content you're producing, in terms of the expectations and the demands that you put on your audience. If you're emailing your members daily to remind them to do this or remind them to do that, and it's a B2C membership, then they're probably going to get quite fed up quite quickly, because it may just be that they just haven't found the time to use your membership that week. And they're typically going to be a little more sensitive to overwhelm. So it's down to you to find ways that you can deliver value, deliver results without demanding a lot of your members' time. You need to make it convenient for them to use your membership. And a good way of doing that, or a good idea for these type of memberships, is actually provide something that shows and teaches and demonstrates to your members how to actually make good use of your membership, how to manage time, how to make time for actually implementing the stuff that they're learning. And the third thing to consider when looking at the differences between business to business memberships and business to consumer memberships is the level of exposure your market has to advertising, sales, and marketing tactics. In the B2B world, depending on your niche, your audience, your potential members will have had a lot more exposure to commonly used marketing tactics. So they're going to possibly be able to recognize things like the product launch formula 3-video launch sequence. They're possibly going to be able to recognize things like when a webinar is automated versus when it's live in real time. If it's business to consumer, maybe they're going to be a little more creeped out by remarketing on Facebook, for example, than a B2B member who is accustomed to that because they know what it is. Maybe they do it for their own business. So think about the level of exposure that your audience will have had to various different marketing tactics. You obviously don't want to put off your audience by having them focusing on the tactic itself rather than the message you're trying to get across, or the activity or the action you're trying to provoke. So while there's not going to be extremes in how B2C react to a particular marketing strategy versus how B2B would react to it, there certainly are differences. There's certainly nuances that you want to take into consideration when thinking about how to promote and grow your membership. So those are 4 of the core differences between catering to B2B or catering to a B2C audience with your membership. First and foremost, how vast the range of potential impact your membership could have when the B2C market versus with the B2B market, and the importance of assessing and analyzing where you actually fit on the scale between something that's more of a hobby and something that's truly life-changing, making sure that you're actually approaching, positioning, marketing your membership accordingly. Second big thing is the attitudes towards cost and affordability. B2C typically will be expected to be a bit cheaper than B2B memberships. There are exceptions to the rule, but a big part of the reason for that is how your audience will actually perceive and place the regular subscription cost and how they'll think about it in terms of other stuff they're paying for on a month-to-month basis. The third is how much time your members will have available, and the fact that there's typically going to be more time constraints for a B2C member. So it comes down to you to make it convenient for them and to ensure they avoid overwhelm, and that your content delivery and the way in which you engage and interact with your members takes into account the fact that they might not have time to fully engage in the way you'd like them to. And the fourth and final difference is the difference in the level of exposure to various marketing tactics between business audiences and consumer audiences. So whichever of those groups that your membership is catering towards, make sure you're taking into account those 4 key elements. All right, that was episode 66, all about the differences between B2C and B2B memberships. Hopefully you found that little trip into the archives useful. I do really like this episode. I often think people don't put enough thought into how whether or not they're B2C or B2B impacts so many different elements of their membership business. So hopefully this has given you a good reminder, some things to think about wherever you are on your membership journey. That is it from me for this week. Next week, we're going back into the archives. We're going to be talking all about membership pricing. So that's definitely one you're going to want to tune into. But until then, I'm out of here. If you enjoyed this week's episode of the Membership Guys podcast, we invite you to check out membershipacademy.com. The Membership Academy is the essential resource for anyone at any stage of starting, growing, and running a membership website. Whether you're still trying to figure out what your idea is going to be, or whether your website is already up and running and you're just looking for ways to grow it and attract new members, then the Membership Academy can help you to get to the next level. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive member-only discounts, perks, and tools, and a supportive, active community to help you along the way with feedback, encouragement, and advice, the Membership Academy is the perfect place to be for anyone looking to start, manage, and grow a successful membership website. Check it out at membershipacademy.com.